One unsuspecting morning, in a peaceful town in eastern Russia, normal daily life was thrown into fear and chaos when 18-year-old Timur Bekmansurov entered a university campus and unleashed a violent wave of terror on those who stood in his path. During this senseless rampage, 6 lives were tragically cut short, over 40 people were injured, and countless more were left traumatized from the brutal events that had occurred. In truly terrifying scenes, CCTV footage captures the nightmare that will haunt the town and country forever. What shocked me most about this case was seeing the imagery. Some guy dressed all in black, carrying a shotgun, and his only objective is to kill as many people as possible. Terrifying. So many died, so many injured, and so many mentally scarred for the rest of their lives. It's a crazy case. But before we dive in, I want to let you know about my second channel called Grim Tales, where I cover shocking but non-murderous true stories. The link to this channel is in the comments, and you can also subscribe to my Instagram here. Thank you. This video is created solely for educational and documentary purposes. It does not endorse or condone the criminal actions described within. Timur Bekmansurov was born on March 8, 2003. He lived in the quiet town of Glazov, situated near the Trans-Siberian Railway in Russia. He grew up there with his mother, an accountant, and his father, a former police officer, before their eventual separation. As a child, Bekmansurov was said to be quiet with few friends, and was described by someone who knew him as unsociable. Although Bekmansurov was said to be known for his reserved nature, there were reports of occasional aggressive outbursts. Throughout his school years, Bekmansurov's fascination with war became apparent. Classmates later spoke of how he knew a lot about the topic, with one classmate reported to have said, and quote, "We knew that he had interests in weapons and war because he was usually the first to answer these questions in class." Bekmansurov also had aspirations of joining the military. However, these ambitions are said to have been cut short due to health issues. Leading up to the attack, Bekmansurov managed to purchase a firearm, which he'd had some financial support from his own family to purchase this. In Russia, gun ownership is controlled, with regulations that require numerous tests and permits. Firearms can only be obtained for specific reasons, such as hunting, of which Bekmansurov had successfully secured a permit for. By all appearances, having passed the tests and obtained a license, he followed the rules and kept the gun locked away as required. But no law, no locked cabinet could prevent the horror that was about to unfold when Bekmansurov chose to go and commit such a sickening attack. It's believed that Bekmansurov had an on and off girlfriend, but that they both ended their relationship in early 2021. Reports suggest that during the relationship, his girlfriend was at times concerned by his behaviour and unsettling interests, as well as strange comments on particular topics. On one occasion, he told her that he thought an earlier fatal shooting was, and quote, cool. It would later emerge that he had made comments online about supposedly distancing himself from those close to him out of concern for their welfare. In late 2021, an 18-year-old Bekmansurov started a university degree in law. He had plans of going on to become a forensic scientist. However, he didn't stay on the course long and is said to have dropped out after just 10 days. This decision to leave behind any academic aspirations he may have once had led him on a far darker path. Leading up to the horrific attack, ominous signs of his mental state began to surface. Bekmansurov made a series of sinister comments on a now removed social media account. In those chilling statements, he's quoted as saying, "For as long as I've known myself, I've always thought about death." And at one point, he described himself as unstoppable. Among the many disturbing comments Bekmansurov is alleged to have posted, one chilling detail emerged. that he had meticulously planned his attack and carefully selected his target. In a horrific explanation, he wrote, "In my first plan, I chose my school as a place for attack, but at the end of March, I decided to change the place." He went on, "The school was too unpleasant a place to spend the last 10 minutes of my life," before he revealed how he had considered other locations as potential targets, but seemingly none of these appeared to fit his grim criteria. He continued his rants on social media, saying, and quote, "I need a place where the biggest concentration of people would be on a Monday, close to midday." Ultimately, Perm State University would become the place of his terrifying attack, nearly 800 miles from Moscow, where roughly 12,000 students were enrolled. On Monday 20th of September 2021, Bekmansurov set out to commit the horrific crimes he had been alluding to online. A neighbour saw him getting into a vehicle on the morning of the shooting. The neighbour noticed that he was wearing dark clothing, had a balaclava on, was holding a bag, and thought that the vehicle may have been a taxi. It would be around an hour later when the horrific events would start to unfold. On his approach to the university, a member of the public is driving a car nearby and picks up Bekmansurov on his dashcam, who can be seen firing directly at the car. Bullets from Bekmansurov's gun hit the vehicle and cracked the window screen. Fortunately, the driver survives this terrifying moment and escapes. Bekmansurov carries on walking, continuing to shoot at passing cars, terrifying all those in the area. Turning onto the site, he began firing indiscriminately towards the buildings. In these brutal moments, people can be seen on CCTV footage frantically running in all directions away from Bekmansurov. As he headed across the campus, he came into the vicinity of 66-year-old Margarita. She was a doctor who was known locally and was at the university with a group of school children. They were on site that day to visit the botanical gardens when Margarita was fatally wounded, right there on the campus. Thankfully, all the children who were in the group survived the attack. People inside captured Bekmansurov on camera as he headed towards them in all black clothing, armed with a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun. Fear can be heard in their voices as the chilling footage plays out. Roughly 3,000 students are said to have been on the campus that day, some of which were gathering in the building's entrance. They can be seen on camera, preparing for a typical day ahead, until suddenly, normality is completely shattered and sheer panic ensues. People can be seen fleeing the area, desperate to escape the horror in front of them. One individual is dragged along the floor by another, pulling them further into the entrance in an effort to help them. It appears that just moments later, they were shot by Bekmansurov with a shotgun. Footage of the entrance captured from a different angle shows the horrifying sight those would have witnessed in that moment. An individual, dressed all in black, approaching with a huge weapon in hand. Those moments must have been unbelievably terrifying and traumatic. From the pixelated footage, it appears as though he shoots at the entrance as he arrives. As Bekmansurov made his way deeper into the building, those now fully aware of the impending danger scrambled to find safety. Some desperately blocked themselves inside rooms, whilst others fled however they could. With every step Bekmansurov took, fear grew, turning the university into a scene of desperation as everyone fought for survival. Several more cameras would capture his brutal assault as Bekmansurov stalked his way further into the building. In one frightening clip, a terrified young woman can be seen in a corridor. She appears still, unsure of what's happening, before running for her life. Amongst the frantic chaos, in a moment of sheer brutality, Bekmansurov reportedly shot dead 19-year-old Ekaterina Shakarova and 18-year-old Ksenia Samchenko as they walked through the building. From another camera, we see a truly heart-wrenching moment when a young person can be seen making their way through an empty corridor towards a stairway. Unfortunately, they were heading straight into the path of Bekmansurov. In a moment of horror, they would end up face to face with a killer that they had no chance of outrunning. Bekmansurov's violent assault with his 12-gauge shotgun would also take the lives of Anna Agladina, Alexandra Makova, and Yaroslava Aramlev. As those horrifying moments unraveled, word of the brutality quickly spread on social media and in frantic messages. Soon, those outside the campus became aware of the chaos taking place within. Among many terrified exchanges, two friends were reportedly messaging each other during the attack, one believed to have been trapped inside the building, whilst the other anxiously waited at a distance. The friend inside, gripped by fear, sent a chilling message saying, and quote, "Toma, this is a nightmare. I'm terrified. We are all crouched under the tables. The door has no lock. We put a chair against it." It's unimaginable how truly helpless you would feel, trapped with nowhere to run, consumed by the sickening knowledge of what's happening, desperately hoping for it to end. In a harrowing account, another student is said to have described how their teacher kept Bekmansurov out from where they were sheltered. The student said, and quote, "There was no key and the door was open. She tied the handles with a piece of cable. He tried to force the door. When it wouldn't open, he shot at the door, and then once at the wall, and kept walking along the corridor." The terror in this moment must have been palpable. Thankfully, the teacher's fast actions appear to have averted further tragedy and potentially saved many lives. The university itself were quick to display messages urgently, warning staff and students that, if you are currently inside the university, please try to shut yourself inside the room and stay inside. If you are on campus, please leave if possible. If you are on the way to the university, turn back. The terrifying ordeal would later be recalled by many of those on site. Another witness, who was inside the building at this time, said, and quote, "It was awfully scary. I still see it in front of my eyes. Him walking right towards us." As word of the attack spread rapidly, a nearby police officer was approached by a member of the public, stressing the urgent need for help at the university. The gravity of the situation was clear. The officer was quick to act. As the police made their way over to the site of the attack, they saw people fleeing and heard gunfire. Bekmansurov had moved through the building, from the ground to the first floor, and reportedly on towards another faculty situated alongside. Chilling footage from outside the building shows people pouring out of the windows in an attempt to escape the terrifying situation. In an interview, the policeman explained how another officer helped those outside whilst he entered the building. Footage from inside shows the police officer engage Bekmansurov on those stairs. At this crucial moment, Bekmansurov's violent rampage was finally brought to an end. The police officer described how he moved swiftly to subdue Bekmansurov. Once on the ground, the officer wasted no time in securing the area, ensuring there were no further threats. In those few decisive seconds, the nightmare was over. Without the quick intervention of those policemen, it's likely many more could have lost their lives that day. Soon after, further emergency support arrived on the scene and the surrounding campus. While the immediate danger had passed, the shock and the devastation would take far longer to heal. Initial reports suggested Bekmansurov had been killed on site. However, it later became clear that he had in fact survived. A photo, reported to have been captured on campus, shows an individual dressed all in black, receiving medical treatment at the base of some steps. Bekmansurov was later taken to hospital to be treated for life-threatening injuries. Whilst at hospital, he was guarded around the clock by police. Amongst the numerous comments alleged to have been written prior to the attack, he made a truly sickening remark, and quote, "I thought about this for a long time. It's been years, and I realized the time had come to do what I had dreamt of." Amongst the numerous comments, it's reported he posted this photo of himself before going on to commit his disturbing crimes. As the news broke across the world, varying reports were released by the media regarding the number of victims, including how many had died or were injured. In the days after the atrocity, it became apparent that tragically, a total of 6 people had died that day. In addition to the fatalities, a further 23 people were injured after being shot. In the frantic chaos, many more people were also believed to have been injured whilst escaping the attack, with reports of over 20 more sustaining injuries. 7 of all those injured are believed to have been sent from the area to Moscow for treatment. In the hours after, students living on site were asked to remain at the campus whilst police investigated the scene, and forensic officers soon joined. Following the horrific ordeal, the university grounds became a place of mourning. Many laid flowers outside, candles were lit, and a priest attended the scene. A centre for blood donation was inundated with people eager to help in any way they could. And in honour of those lost, a day of mourning was soon announced on the 21st of September. The police officer who ultimately put a stop to the brutal assault was later given an award for his bravery. In the wake of the attack, Bekmansurov's mother is reported to have commented on her disbelief and shock, struggling to comprehend what her son had done. She is quoted as saying, "I believe that I had an ideal child. He was helping me with everything. I am certain that he never took alcohol and never smoked." She went on to comment on his purchase of a green military helmet from World War II, and that, and quote, "He didn't say why he needed it. This summer, he painted it black." In late 2022, he went on trial for the atrocity, where he pleaded guilty and was convicted for attempted murder and murder. Bekmansurov had asked to be spared from a life sentence. However, regardless of this request, he was sentenced to life imprisonment by the court and ordered to pay 25 million rubles to the victims of the attack. Bekmansurov later tried to appeal, citing his mental state at the time, but this was rejected and the sentence was upheld. In further terrifying comments on social media prior to the onslaught, Bekmansurov is reported to have said, "Outcasts like me will destroy everything around you, as your world is rotten and you are rotten inside." He also commented that, "I will do everything in my power to kill as many as I can." The level of sheer trauma and terror that all the victims went through that day is unimaginable. No matter how shocking the footage is, it will never convey the deep pain and lasting effects that the victims had to go through. It's absolutely horrific. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay sane.